Hey everybody, welcome back to Backcountry Amateur Radio. I want to talk about the GS-5B. The GS-5B is a cool radio. I really like it. As a radio itself, it's pretty great. When it comes to programming it externally, I've had a lot of problems with it, and I think a lot of you have as well. And if you're looking to buy this, wait for a minute. A few things to note: the Bluetooth app doesn't work so great. So keep that in mind, and I will show you exactly what that is. We'll get into the programming cable issue and why I don't use the programming cable that came with it. That's problematic. The radio itself, I saw it now, it's on sale for $80. That looked pretty great. It's still a great radio. I still stood on the mountain with pouring rain on me, this radio exposed to the elements, and still pretty happy with the radio itself. But I have to do most of the programming either by hand or through the computer using a different programming cable. So let's get into it, and I'll show you kind of what I've been working with. Follow the link above to see the video I did on the programming cable from Radioddity for this radio. This is the TID radio programming cable, which has no problems, as far as I can tell. So I set up the GS-5B software on my computer and wrote a bunch of frequencies and channels into the GS-5B, basically to have something simple to go with for this test. I pardon the thorough nature of this, but like all the details are here just to show you in case you want to see all of it. Opening up the radio or turning it on, I looked through the different settings to make sure that they were where I wanted them according to the programming. And things like repeaters, I had set up a few PL tones in the transmit CT CSS, and they were where they were supposed to be. In the simplex configuration, no tones. So they held. Are these settings going to load from the radio into the app the same? So we go through the Bluetooth, pair the radio and the app, and the idea here is to make sure those settings hold coming up from the radio into the app. And as far as I could tell, everything looked the same. And now there's some specifics that I think we had to pay attention for. And that's, I'll show you as I go through those, and usually involves encryption and tones. When I open up the different settings inside the app, what I'm looking to see is each channel that I put in are the CTCSS or DCS tones and codes where they were supposed to be, which is generally off, or if there's a case of a repeater, set to 79.9 hertz or DCS 031N or whatever. In this case, things remain the same. And then the encryption needs to remain off. The encryption feature is a pain in the butt. It's not useful for ham radio, and maybe in a doomsday situation you'll use it, but I have a doubt that any of us who know how to use these things would. Anyway, I saved this setting and I rewrote it to the radio because at this point I know things are remaining the same from the computer programming software to the radio, from the radio to the app. Now, is the app changing any of the information? I didn't alter anything, saved it in the app, and then I rewrote it back to the radio. And as you see here, all that stuff remained the same. No settings changed. And I think that's significant because things are working in that regard. The next step in my test was to see if I program from the app to the phone, creating a new channel in the app. So I went to channel space 9, and I did the same with 10, and I created 2 new channels with frequencies of made up information just to see what the app would do. And this is where I started to run into problems. So if you're sharing with your friends, this is about 4 minutes 30 seconds into the video. What you're seeing here is a new frequency. I have to set it to wide because it defaults to narrow, which is a pain in the butt. And you can't see it here, but I'm actually trying to change the encryption. I can't toggle the encryption to off. It remains on, programming a new channel into the app. So that's problem one. So what I did here is I went into some of the general settings for the radio instead of a channel setting to see if the encryption defaults were off, and they're off. And there's no other setting for encryption anywhere, and there's no other setting for default tones either that are active anyway. And so in the app, you can't turn off this default encryption when you're programming in a new channel. And this is something I've actually written to Radioddity about. This is a while back, and this conversation started when I had a viewer on another YouTube video about this radio comment about this problem we're discussing right now. Now, the date here is the 6th of September 2022, and this problem has not been resolved. Programming a new channel, channel 10 here, I have to go back and set FM signal to wide because the default is narrow. You can't turn the encryption off. I'm going to go ahead and save this and write it to the radio and just see what happens. And this is where testing your settings in your radio, especially these radios, uh, before you transmit is going to be pretty important. So I write all this information back to the radio, and we're going to dive into the radio here and open up channels 9 and 10. All right, here we go. The programming pairing is complete. Now this is writing information, new channels from the app, in the app, from the app to the radio. What we're looking for now on the radio is channel 9 and 10 to see what the settings were. So this is channel 9. The tone, the received tone defaulted to 254.1 hertz. Okay, in the app that was set to off. The transmit is also 254.1 hertz. In the app that was set to off. And then of course the encryption we couldn't turn off, and of course it is on in the radio. So the iOS app really leaves a lot to be desired. It basically renders a new channel unusable if you're programming from the app. And because you can't use those channels or those frequencies predictably, you have to go in and turn them off. The cool thing is you can turn them off. And this is what's nice about the radio. The radio actually saves channel settings despite the fact that the channel's already been saved. I don't know very many radios besides the GMRS radios where you can alter saved channels like this. So here I power down the radio just to make sure the settings save, the altered settings in the existing channel, channel 9, and they remain the same. They remain off. So the CTCSS and transmit and receive remain off. The encryption remained off. But anyway, now these frequencies, these channels are usable. We had to go through and alter these settings though. Let's do it the other way. Let's program from the keypad, save that, and then load it into the app. And then we're going to take a look at all of those things, channel 9, 10, and this new one, 12, in the app and see what those settings look like coming back from the radio, altered and then saved as a new channel. I'm programming a new channel here, 147.65. So this is just a random frequency I picked, and it's set up as a negative shift repeater, and I'm going to save it in frequency storage or memory storage, channel storage number 12. With that, is I'm just going to do the one. But I want to show you that programming this from the keypad is the most effective way, unfortunately, to program this radio in the field. One of the standout features of this is Bluetooth programming, but as you can see here, the Bluetooth app, it just doesn't work. Okay, so here we are, loaded all that data back into the app after some alterations. And we're going to go to memory, channel memory 12, and make sure that the CTCSS codes are where we want them to be, and make sure the encryption is off. And what I'm seeing here are this signal code. I'm not even sure what that is, but that is something I've run into every time I've programmed from the keypad and then loaded the data into the app. I don't know what this signal code is. But anyway, the receive tone is off, the transmit tone for repeater is on at 88.5, and the encryption is off. So this is a usable channel, and we know that that's not going to change when you load this back and you write it back into the radio. So now what we're looking at is channel 10. The settings that we altered were saved. And channel 9, the settings altered are saved. So that's important to note too, because you can effectively repair the settings when you alter those settings in the radio and then read them back from the app. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but I'm hoping this visual really helps you. It's a great radio, but the app leaves a lot to be desired. It is not efficient to use the iOS app for the GS-5B. Part of being a ham radio operator is troubleshooting equipment. You're always going to do it. This radio, as good as it is, I would still buy it, especially if you can find it at a discount. But I wouldn't count on using that programming software developed for mobile devices or smartphones, iOS. I don't know about how the Android is behaving, but in the iOS, it doesn't seem to be behaving the way we need it to for it to work properly. So radio is great. I like it. If you want to program it in the keypad or use the kind of cumbersome computer programming software, go for it. Great radio. But when we're looking at buying a radio, as a ham radio operator, these days, most of these kinks should be worked out before you buy the product. And this has been kind of a thing that, I hate to say it, if you want to be solid, don't buy one. Get a Yaesu, buy a Nikon. Hedge your bets. If you like this content, please give it a thumbs up. I'd love to see more of it. Thumbs up. And we'll catch you down the trail. Backcountry Amateur Radio.